Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Trina. I'm back today with another reading vlog, very quickly after the previous one. I've been having such a good time filming reading vlogs. They've really been inspiring me to read more than I normally would. And I'm just kind of enjoying filming them and like finding ways to fit in shots of my neighborhood and the fall colors that are so beautiful this time of year on the East Coast. So I wanted to keep the good vibes going. It is currently Sunday and Halloween is on Thursday, and I really want to get into the spooky mood. I've read most of the books I had planned for October in my autumnal reading vlog, but I still have a couple of left. I also was just in a bookstore yesterday where I was talking about how I didn't love An Education in Malice, and the people that work there had several suggestions for vampire books that I might love. So I think some of those might be available at the library, so I'm going to try to pick up and read this week for Halloween, which I'm really excited for, because I don't want to be disappointed by vampire books. I love vampire books, so I want to read these vampire books and hopefully love them. The two books they recommended to me were House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson and Undying by Kiersten, both of which are vampire stories and both of which I believe are sapphic. So in a similar vein to An Education in Malice, everyone wants to be Carmilla. But I'm hoping that they will be available in the library this week. And if they're not, there's some other haunted books that I kind of want to try. This is going to be a little bit different to my last two reading vlogs in that I don't have a super strict plan for myself. I kind of just want to film this week as it becomes Halloween. Film all the cute costumes I come across and the decor that I find, and have a good time with it. I do have one book that I think I want to start out with. I wouldn't just start this with absolutely zero plan. So I do have one book that I want to start out with as I'm deciding on the other books, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I don't really know how to categorize this book. I believe it's fantasy, but I also have heard people call it dark academia. But I've also haven't seen it necessarily on lists of like core dark academia books the same way I've seen like If We Were Villains or Babel or something like that. So I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. But this has been on my bookshelf for probably 2 years because I claim to be a Leigh Bardugo fan. I loved Six of Crows. I love watching content about the books that Leigh Bardugo writes. But I have yet to actually read Ninth House or Hellbent, the sequel. I got this as a Christmas present several years ago. And now I'm moving and I'm like, am I going to pack this into storage or am I going to pack this with me to read? And I think I'd like to read it for this fall season and not have to bring it with me. And then maybe buy Hellbent when I'm traveling or something like that, if I like it. I have high hopes. I've heard really, really great things about this book in particular by Leigh Bardugo. I know it's adult, and where Six of Crows was YA, so I have high hopes for that as well. And I think it's just gonna be a good time. I think it's gonna be kind of a creepy, eerie time, especially with a cover like this. I don't know, this for me is just, who cares what the content is? This cover is Halloween, and that's the vibes I'm going for right now. And I'm really excited to get started with it. I think I'm gonna make myself maybe a hot chocolate. Actually, I normally make myself a tea, but maybe I'll make myself a hot chocolate. It's that kind of day, kind of cool outside, and start reading this and see if I like it as much as I'm hoping I will. Hello. Super quick update from a weird angle because it's getting dark out soon and I really want to stop by the library to see if my library book came in. Fingers crossed. Online it's saying it's not, but a couple times it's come in ahead of when it actually shows online that it actually is in. So I'm hoping that the library book for House of Hunger is in because I'm really excited to start that. I do have a quick reading update on Ninth House. I'm a decent chunk into this. Oh my goodness. I'm 163 pages in and it's 400 pages, I think. 450 pages. It's kind of a long book. I'm really, really loving this. I'm loving it for totally different reasons than, what am I saying? I'm loving it for totally different reasons than I loved If We Were Villains. If We Were Villains is it's very much about the relationships. And in this one, the relationships are very slow to build. We haven't really gotten as much of that from the beginning, probably because If We Were Villains is a shorter book. I shouldn't be comparing them. Sorry, I'll stop comparing them. But what I'm really liking about this one is the way it's talking about academia and the way that Alex, the main character, who is there to serve a purpose but doesn't really belong there, is just such a good... There's sirens in the background, I apologize. But she's such a good representation of the problems with academia. And the way that she isn't bittered about it, she actually hates herself. She's so down on herself about her skill at academia. It's just so well written, and I love Alex, the main character, so much. And I'm growing fonder of Darlington, who is the other perspective character, but we haven't gotten a ton from him. And also I'm sort of established in the beginning of the book, I don't think this is a spoiler, that something has happened to him, and he's out of the picture in the future perspective chapters. He's only in the past perspective chapters, and I'm not getting too attached to him until I'm confirmed that he's going to be okay. But yeah, I really like the way the book is structured with a prologue set far in the future so we know something catastrophic happens, and a forward perspective happening in the midst of the catastrophe, and a past perspective happening in the build-up, so we get sort of all perspectives on all of that. But I'm really, really loving this. It is currently Monday, and I really want to finish this before Halloween, which I think I'll be able to, but I also want to pick up more spooky books in the meantime and kind of co-read some books. So yeah, I'll take you with me to the library now, and I'll see if I can find my book there. If not, I might also stop by the bookstore and see if it's there instead. We'll see. I'm just really, really excited to start it, so fingers crossed. But it's the perfect fall evening weather right now, so hoping to go out and enjoy it a little bit. Hi, hello. We are T-2 days out from Halloween. It is currently Tuesday. It is dark outside because it gets dark so early now that I don't have any choice. I have to film this in the dark, and we just have to deal with the lighting because that's how it is. I am so sad. I went to the library yesterday and I went again today to see, because it has never taken this long for a library book to move from being in transit to arriving at the library. So I don't know how far away this library they're shipping it from is, but it must be so far because it's now been in transit for about 5 days. And I'm kind of worried that it won't come in time for me to read it for Halloween, which would make me so sad because that was the whole reason I started this reading vlog, is because I wanted to read a vampire book for Halloween. So I really, really hope it comes in tomorrow, or even on Halloween itself. I would be okay with that. I just wanted to come in before Thursday at this point. So really, really hoping that happens. But until then, I decided to stop by the bookstore and I decided to pick up another book instead. They didn't have House of Hunger, otherwise I would have just bought a copy of it. I'm becoming that person that gets too impatient with libraries. I don't want to be that person, but I fear I'm becoming that person. But instead, I was browsing through their books and I like to sometimes look at what they have as signed by the author because it tends to be like local authors, DC authors a lot of the time, which has always been good for me. Every single book I've read from a local DC author has ended up being like really, really good. I don't know if this author is local or not. I didn't actually research that, but I picked up Hampton Heights by Dan Coys. This is such a short book. This is it must be like a novella or short story. It's only 190 pages. It's under 200 pages. So I thought this would be the perfect stopgap measure until I can get my hands on House of Hunger. This is a Halloween night story. It's a spooky story following separate groups of characters going on individual adventures. I believe it might be middle grade or young adult, so I think that's what I read online. Maybe not, but it is about middle schoolers. It's about 6, I read the back in the bookstore, it's about 6 middle school paper boys, like paper delivery boys, who are sent out at night to deliver papers for their manager, but the neighborhood they live in has some spooky elements to it. So they're split up, I believe, in groups of 2. 2 go together, 2 go together, 2 go together. And each of the groups comes across something else spooky. I wonder if it says on the back. The 3 pairs will encounter the wild things of Hampton Heights, werewolves, witches with a centuries old story to tell, and an ancient monster who feeds on memories, which I thought sounded perfect for a little pre-Halloween book. It's also queer relationships, queer characters, which I thought would also be fun, and I thought it's a signed copy. Hopefully I love it, and then I can keep this, but otherwise then I can give it to a little library and someone else can enjoy it for the spooky season. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking about picking this up because I'm still reading Ninth House, but I like to dual read. I'm a mood reader, so I like to have multiple books going at the same time. So I think I might start this tonight to see how I like it, to give myself a little break from Ninth House. Speaking of which, I am still really, really loving this so far. I'm really enjoying it. So when I say give myself a break, I don't mean because it's bad, just because I'm enjoying it so much that I don't want to rush through it. Like, I don't want to hurry to the end, I want to take my time. I'm actually getting pretty close to the end, surprisingly. I'm 277 pages in. You can see I'm over the halfway mark. I'm still really loving this. The mysteries are starting to come together. Things are starting to be revealed. I can't remember how much I gave yesterday when I actually talked about liking this book. I don't think I gave any sort of summary of why or how. But this is such a good dark academia book. I'm really shocked by how much I'm enjoying the differences between this book, If We Were Villains, and Babel. Again, the comparisons are just because these are the only 3 dark academia books I've read. I'm not counting in Education and Malice. Okay, we're forgetting that happened. The only 3 good dark academia books I've read. And they're very, very different while still having similar themes and focusing on similar ideas. In particular, because I just read If We Were Villains and I'm reading this now, like 3 weeks later, it's fresh on my mind. If We Were Villains focuses greatly on character relationships, on this like intimate cohort of classmates who are always in each other's pockets and are in on each other's schemes and are villains and victims amongst one another. Ninth House is about a character, Alex, who is outside of those things. We witness her moving around campus as a character whose job is literally to make sure that these niche, insulated groups of magicians aren't getting out of hand, aren't doing illegal magic. So she's literally on the outside of groups of people like in If We Were Villains, and kind of purposefully so. She does not come from a similar background to any of them. She is an ultimate outsider, and that's done so well in its own way, like in the way that academia is now portrayed from an entirely different perspective to insider dark academia novels that are still critiquing dark academia, just from a different angle. So I'm really loving the differences. I also think fantasy is a way bigger, I would say it's an even bigger aspect of this story than it was in Babel, which is also fantasy, but Leigh Bardugo does such a good job balancing the fantasy with the dark academia. She weaves it in really, really well. Alex as a character is clearly working so hard to belong at Yale in some way. She does not belong there. She was brought in because of forces she can't control because she doesn't really have a choice. She was brought in to serve a purpose, but she's trying to fit in there. She's trying to work on her writing. She has no diploma. She has no academic background needed to go to Yale. But we can see her slowly starting to pick up on things, that she is willing to push herself. And that's such a good, like, comparison to the real world. And, like, there's so many people out there that could go to Ivy Leagues, could go to elite institutions if they had the time and the space and the ability to work hard and study and put their whole into this work that academics so often are able to do because of their resources or the resources of their family. I don't want to get into that too much, but Alex is such a good character in that respect, and this take on dark academia, I think, might be my favorite yet. That outsider portrayal of it is really, really smart. And magic used in this case, where it's something that anyone could hypothetically learn and use, and the wrong people learn and use it, when it could be helping so many other people that don't have the resources or the access to get that magic, but it's only going towards the uber wealthy who don't really need it for their day-to-day existence, versus Alex's brand of magic, which is something that she can't control, that she was born with, but it actually hurts her frequently and she hates it and she doesn't actually enjoy it. I'm explaining this kind of poorly, but all the metaphors in this book work so well. I'm loving this. I'm having such good luck with books for the spooky season. Maybe it's just because autumnal books are automatically better, but that's just my opinion. But I'm really loving this and I'm really impressed with it so far. So I decided to slow down a little bit, and I'm solely reading it in the moment at night because I like the vibes better, spooky. There's a lot of wandering around at night on campus in New Haven, and I've never been to New Haven, but that experience of wandering around a college campus at night is so familiar if you've been to college. Like, you know that feeling. You know when you're not wearing a good enough coat because you're going from like party to party and you're getting goosebumps from the cold, but you also like you feel that energy in the air. You hear people in the distance going to parties. Like, that kind of energy is so autumnal in my mind. It reminds me of like going like back to school time. And I think it's captured so perfectly in this book. So I'm really happy I'm reading it. It maybe is not perfectly Halloween themed, but it is perfect for the weather outside that's becoming like really chilly recently. And the leaves are all starting to fall and we're getting some more dead trees now. So yeah, I'm really, this is the perfect time to pick this up. I would recommend picking this up around the Halloween time so far. We'll just have to see if Leigh Bardugo sticks the landing. I think she can. I know there's a sequel, so I'm not expecting like a perfect wrapped up ending the way If We Were Villains was wrapped up, but I still have faith in Leigh Bardugo to have like at least a bittersweet ending. So I am looking forward to finishing this. I'll work on it tonight, but I probably won't finish it tonight. I'll probably finish it tomorrow. But I do, like I said, I do want to start Hampton Heights tonight, so I might start that with you. I don't know if I'll finish it. It is kind of late. I have other things to do. I do need to make dinner and stuff, but I think I'll start this tonight. Finally! Let's go! Round 2 of going to the library because they have finally told me that House of Hunger is ready and I'm really excited to pick it up. So unfortunately I'm still working on the other 2 books for this vlog, so we're gonna pick it up and we're gonna stop by the park and I'm gonna finish Ninth House and probably also Hampton Heights tonight. We'll see. Did want to clarify, Hampton Heights, not middle grade, not YA, definitely adult content. Why this had to be about middle schoolers, I don't know. They could have easily been high school paper boys. I don't know why they had to be in middle school for the events in this. They don't talk like middle schoolers. They don't act like middle schoolers. But that's okay. It's still I would say it's still a spooky good time. I'm about halfway through, and we've encountered werewolves. They've talked about vampires. Hampton Heights, the location, seems to be like a hotbed of magical activities. So that's kind of cool, kind of fun, kind of spooky. But I am hoping to finish it tonight and just be done, because it's kind of ruining my groove. It's not really a break from Ninth House. It's more like something I'm like forcing myself to get through more than anything else. So I just want to be done. And I really want to start House of Hunger. So we're gonna go pick it up, and we're gonna sit at the park and enjoy the fall weather that has unexpectedly gotten really warm today. Hi, welcome back. I'm holding a candle for ambiance, of course, and because the lighting in here is quite bad. It is officially Halloween Eve. I guess this is what you'd call the 30th. Halloween is tomorrow. I'm really enjoying doing this reading vlog. I feel like I care much more about Halloween this year than I have the past couple of years because of this vlog, so I think it's adding to the vibes and I'm really having fun with it. I have a little reading update. As I showed, I picked up House of Hunger from the library. It finally came in, and I read the first chapter of House of Hunger, which I'll talk about a little bit. I haven't gotten any further in Ninth House, I will say. I tried to read a little bit today during the day, but I ended up just feeling like it was impossible to read that book during the daytime. I felt like a book I had to read at night, like it has nighttime vibes, so I'll probably try to read a little bit of it tonight, and we'll see. The finale of Agatha All Along is tonight, so I don't know how much reading I'm gonna get done because I want to watch that finale, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get a little bit done. But starting off my reading update, I finished Hampton Heights by Dan Coy. I actually enjoyed this. I went into it knowing it wasn't that good, or like knowing it wasn't like peak literature because the Goodreads reviews were quite bad. But I just went into it for like a silly, spooky time, something short that feels like Halloween. And even though this is not even set in Halloween, it feels like a Halloween book. The main characters are paper boys who are traveling the neighborhood selling newspaper subscriptions. They're going door to door and encountering different characters and different people. And that feels so Halloween-y. It feels like the vibes of trick-or-treating, like going to different people's houses, encountering different people's lives, and all these like magical monsters and things like that. And I did like the vibes. I think it had really great Halloween-y vibes that I enjoyed. I feel like were perfect for this week. So I'm really glad I did end up picking it up. I think especially I'm able to say this because the last bit of the book was really good. There are 6 boys total, and they split into groups of 2. So 2 go together, 2 go together, and 2 go together. And each of them encounters a different thing. So then the book is split into 3 pieces. The first 2 stories, so the first 2 duos of boys, weren't the greatest. The first one was just a little it was a little bit random. It was fun, but it didn't like mean anything to me particularly. That was the one with, what is his name? Sigmund and Joel. And Joel I don't particularly care about as a character. Sigmund I liked, but it just felt like Joel got about like 2 pages of perspective, so we don't really care about him. And then the second story that I thought was going to be my favorite one was Mark and Ryan. And you know what I actually think the problem is? I think there's a typo on the back of this book, which, call me crazy, but I literally think there's a typo on the back of this book. It says, Mark, who's wrestling with his sexuality, joins his secret crush Ryan, who has a crush of his own. I think they switched the names there. Because in the story, it's Ryan who's coming to terms with his sexuality, who has a crush on Mark. And Mark ends up with this girl that he has a crush on. So I literally think the back blurb for this book is wrong, which is insane to me that no one caught it. And that really bugged me with story 2, I will just say, because the whole time I was like, I think they swapped these characters. This is not what it says in the back of the book. So that annoyed me. To say the least, that annoyed me. But I really loved the last story between Nishu and Al. That one felt like the most Halloween-y. They encounter this troll who offers questions and they sneak a bargain. And it also felt like the only story in which it made sense for them to be middle schoolers, because they kind of act like middle schoolers and they're a little bit silly and they're kind of idiots. Sigmon's story felt like high schoolers. Mark and Ryan's, I don't even know what was going on in that one. That one kind of freaked me out. I didn't really like how that story was handled either. I did not feel like they needed to be middle schoolers for that, but Nishu and Al's story I really liked. So I think it was a fun time. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I picked it up. It was a fun little break from Ninth House, because I didn't want to speed read Ninth House like I said, so I'm glad I had something to pick up in the meantime. But then after finishing Hampton Heights, I started House of Hunger. I don't think I've given any sort of plot description what this book is about other than mentioning that there's vampires, because I didn't know really what it was about. I got sold on this so hard by the booksellers at my local bookshop last weekend that it was actually the whole reason I got inspired to do this reading vlog for Halloween, is because they were hyping up all these vampire stories to me. And I was like, you know what, that sounds really fun to read for Halloween. I should do a reading vlog to motivate myself to read this week. So this is like, book is technically the whole reason I'm doing this vlog, but it offered a good excuse also to read Ninth House, so I'm glad I did. But I'm glad I was able to get this today before Halloween tomorrow. And it's actually not too long. It's only, let's see, I think it's under 300 pages. It's only about 300 pages. And the margins are fairly large. So I think I might be able to read this today and tomorrow. I don't know how much time I'm gonna have for reading tonight. Like I said, I really want to watch Agatha All Along. But I read the first chapter just to see what the vibes are. Do I want to read this simultaneously with Ninth House? Do I want to read it first because I think Ninth House is better? And I kind of like it, honestly. Unfortunately, there's going to end up being some comparisons to An Education in Malice because they're both sapphic vampire stories. But so far, the writing style I like a lot more than I liked the writing style in An Education in Malice, which is already a good sign. So I think I'm going to have fun with this. The plot for this book is essentially, it exists in a fantasy world. So it's not realism, it's not our world, but in this fantasy world, there is a woman named Marion. She's 20 years old, she's pretty impoverished, she works really, really hard and doesn't really get paid a ton for it. So it seems like when a job offering opens up to be a blood servant, or what do they call them? Blood maid. That's nice. To be a blood maid for a wealthy noble, she decides to apply for that job, where essentially in the first chapter it seems like it's described as, oh, you're just giving up blood for these rich people's like potions and healing, because they think it's kind of like how they used to use leeches in the old days, only they're using like other people's blood. But I do think it's actually about vampires. We'll see. And there is where she encounters Countess Lisavet, who by the spine sounds like is gonna be the quote-unquote love interest, but I'm kind of hoping for like a toxic dynamic here, like an unhealthy vampire dynamic. I think that's what I want for the for the Halloween read. So I'm gonna also probably continue on with this tonight. I'm hoping to finish Ninth House tonight, get cozy, read it as I'm like falling asleep, because that's kind of the vibes that I've been enjoying for Ninth House. But I think House of Hunger is gonna be perfect for Halloween, and it came in just in time. finished Agatha All Along. I watched the finale. Peak television, I'm telling you. Something about that show has rewired my brain chemistry. Obsessed. But now, back to reading. Did that scare you? Were you scared? Of course, I'm frightening. Happy Halloween! It's officially Halloween day! Woo! This is the most excited about Halloween that I've been since like pre-COVID. Like, the vibes are so great right now for Halloween. I'm so excited. I do have reading updates, but before that, it's gonna get dark soon, and I really want to go out and see the trick-or-treaters and see everyone's costumes this year. So I want to do a little meander around town and put on my Slender Man earrings. If I can do that without a mirror, yes. See? Slendy. And my friends and I are celebrating Halloween this weekend, upcoming, so I haven't actually finalized my costume yet. So for now, I just have these. But these will work. Yeah. Let's go see the trick-or-treaters! Woo! I'm starting to think having this many open flames on my bookshelf is probably a bad idea. Hi, I'm back from faux trick-or-treating. We just meandered around and saw everyone picking up candy and everything, and it was so cute, so nostalgic. It's been a long time since I lived somewhere where people trick-or-treated, like in my neighborhood that I could walk to, so it was really cozy to just go down and be with all the parents and adults standing on the sides of the sidewalk watching the kids trick-or-treat, and everyone's costumes were so cute and so inventive, and it was a really great time. It's also super windy today, so you might hear like trees hitting my window, but that just adds to the ambiance, so we're having a good time here. We're having a good time. I ran out of my usual rooibos chai blend, so this is like a different chai blend that I had. It's not very good. It's not very good. We live. But yes, it is officially Halloween, which means I still plan to end the reading vlog tonight because this is specifically like my countdown towards Halloween reading vlog. And I do have some reading updates, but this may end up rolling into tomorrow. We will see. Starting off, I finished Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm so happy I read this around Halloween. It's not a Halloween book at all, but it was giving me like witchy, spooky, haunting vibes. There are ghosts in this story. They actually play a pretty prominent role. There's magic of a sort that reminds me of like witches. There's some mention of tarot. So there's a lot in here that feels like Halloween. It feels like every single scene, every single important scene has the ambiance of it taking place at night. So I felt like reading this at night when it was kind of spooky. And most of my books I actually prefer to read during the day because I get really sleepy at night. I am not a night person, but this was the book that actually had me staying up until like 1 or 2 a.m. the last couple of nights, just because I was really enjoying reading it with my little flashlight and everything, and I had a good time. I've decided, I think, to rate this book 4.5 stars. I think the first 70% of the book was leading up to be a 5-star read for me. I just needed to stick the landing, and I feel like it kind of tripped on the landing just a little bit. Like, it didn't fall over, but it did that little hop you do when you trip and you're all embarrassed at the end. I feel like if this had been a standalone, then Leigh Bardugo could have nailed the ending and it would have slayed so hard. But because she's setting up for this sequel, then it feels like the ending kind of just like peters out. It kind of just like ends. And I'm like, oh, well, do I have to read the sequel right now, or are you gonna give me anything else to enjoy here? So it kind of just like fizzles out at the end. I still liked it a lot. I love Alex, the main character. I liked the plot choices of where it was going. I just think that like the execution didn't pull on my heartstrings. You know, the execution of the ending. The first 70%, all the heartstrings were being pulled. But just the ending didn't necessarily like resonate with me as strongly as it could have. So that's the 0.5 star doc. Sorry for all the window squeaking again. But that's where the 0.5 doc comes from. It's still such a good book. I still really enjoyed it. I'm excited to read the sequel. I'm definitely gonna be buying it. And I'm really excited to have read this. I tabbed so much of it. I think it's also it's an amazing piece of work. I used the pink tabs to tab moments where the world building really like had me going, oh my god, this is amazing. This is so well built. This is so smart. I love this. And then I used the dark gray tabs for good quotes, and I had a lot of tabs. And so there were a lot of both of those things that I really enjoyed. There are definitely fewer near the very end, but I she had to end it. I think, I don't know if more pages would have helped. I don't know what would have helped, but it didn't quite work for me. But I think that might be more of a personal thing than an actual issue, which is why I'm not like docking more. I still think this story is incredible. I still think that the usage of dark academia in this book is so smart and so clever, and it's such a perfect combination of fantasy and dark academia with humor from the main character. She's kind of irreverent. She has that, I call it the Gideon the Ninth sense of humor, but it's really just like sassy girl apocalypse, which I love. Yeah, I think, you know what I think it is? Maybe for the ending, sorry, going back to that. When we stop getting Darlington's perspective, if you know what I mean, something's missing from the book. It's after that point that the narrative feels kind of empty without his perspective chapters. So I understand why it was important, like why that happened and why that was a part of the book. But we could have thrown in like one more like way back flashback. We could have gone even further back with a flashback or something like that, just to throw in to break up these series of chapters that just kind of felt like Alex going from place to place to place. That was kind of like I miss Darlington. I miss having a different voice. I love Alex's voice, but when you get used to the narrative as it was, then yeah, that's another theory for maybe why the ending didn't work for me. Either way, 4.5 stars. Great Halloween ambiance, great spooky season overall ambiance, great dark academia, great fantasy. No complaints except for the one, which I've already named. So, perfect. And then I started House of Hunger by, I've already forgot the name, Alexis Henderson. I am 69 pages, oh that's an omen. I'm 69 pages into this, and I'm having a pretty decent time. There are a couple of things that are really bothering me. It's one of those books where the writing is working for me. I'm enjoying the writing. It's not like an Education in Malice where the writing was really pissing me off. The writing is working for me. I know what I'm getting into, kind of the stakes and the setting are pretty well established. And we just met the quote-unquote love interest of a sort, Countess Lisevet, and I like their meeting. And I think that's kind of what I've been holding out hopes for, because the things I don't like so far are little like nitpicky plot points that we're now past, so I can move on from them. I can go into the rest of the book with an open mind. Her brother Raoul is one of them. I don't like how he was written. It's kind of weird. This is not a spoiler at all. This is like in chapter 2. Her brother Raoul has a sexually transmitted disease that he got from being a sex worker. I don't know what, I have no idea about YouTube's filtering system, so whoops, this might get banned, whatever. Who's a sex worker, and he gets a sexually transmitted disease which makes him mean and angry at the world, and he starts like occasionally physically abusing his sister Marion, the main character. I don't really know what the author was trying to say with that. It was kind of weird. It was a little weird. I wasn't a fan. And I wasn't a fan of how we left him as a character either, and how that was handled. It just felt unnecessary, strange, and we keep getting it referenced even after she's not, like, even though he's not on the page anymore. So I'm like, can we move on? Like, I can forgive this if we can just move on with the story. I want to have a good time with this, so I'm gonna ignore that for now. Because otherwise, I do think this is a good vibe. This has a very... It does have that spooky vampire vibe that I'm looking for. There's this super, like, there's super intense discussions of blood and the magic system in this fictional country that revolves around blood and the power to heal illnesses you get from blood. So I'm really enjoying that. And I just want to have a fun, silly, goofy time with it. That's all. Like I said, I'm only 69 pages through, and it's a 300-page book. So, which brings me to my point that I may not be able to finish this tonight. I could. I still have plenty of time. If I sat down and read it, I could finish it tonight. But I really want to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show. I really want to I have my own little Halloween traditions, and there's a Halloween movies. I've been watching the Halloween Town movies. I really like to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show in this season as well. So I might read a little bit more and take a break for Rocky Horror and wrap up this reading vlog tomorrow morning instead. That may be what I decide to do, just because I don't want to rush this book. That's not fair to it. I am having a good time with this. I'm happy I picked it up. I'm really happy it came in from the library because I do like where we're going with it. So I'm excited to keep going and finish this up soon. Good morning. It is officially November 1st, but unofficially we're ignoring that for the next hour or so because I could not finish House of Hunger last night. I was so tired, but I only have about 50 pages left, maybe even less, so I should be able to get it done this morning and wrap up this vlog, which is still a Halloween vlog. It's only been like 12 hours since Halloween, okay? So we're counting it. Current reading update. I am really liking this. I wouldn't say I love it. It's not a perfect book. It's it's not like the craziest, most well-written storyline, and the plot points are kind of straightforward, and the characters aren't fully fleshed out. They're pretty two-dimensional. But that being said, it does have the vibes I wanted. It has the spooky vampire vibes, this, like, eerie old castle on the coast that they live in has the perfect ambiance, and there's hidden passageways, and there's so much blood, and there's all these, like, semi-obscure quotes about the power of blood and everything. So I'm vibing with it. I think it's fine. It's good for Halloween. And honestly, I've read so many good books recently that I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, it's not good, but honestly, I if it was really good, I would be more annoyed. Like, I would be exhausted if I had to read another, like, 5-star, amazing, perfect, show-stopping read right now. I honestly am just happy to be reading something that has the vibe I want, even if it doesn't have the exact plot I want. I still don't really know how it's fully going to resolve itself. I feel like this is one of those books where, like, I have to wait until the end to see if the relationship in this book is really toxic or really real. I think I'd be kind of disappointed if it was real and they were just, like, in love and happy and float into the sunset. I'd be kind of like, That's kind of lame when the rest of the book is so dark and mysterious. They should have a dark and mysterious ending. But we'll see. We'll see how it ends. And I'll give a full update on this book and everything I read in this video. Let's time myself, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. Let's see. And there goes the Halloween reading. It's done. I loved the ending to this. It still like surprised me and shocked me, and I was still like, I didn't know where it was going at any point, like, but it was still a really good lead up. Like, it was really well built, I thought. Yeah, I think before the ending, I was like 3 stars, and now I'm like 4 stars? So maybe like 3.5, 4 stars. I don't know, I'll have to sit on it for a second longer, but I really enjoyed how this ended. I loved the relationships in this. The beginning is definitely weaker, but once we actually get to the House of Hunger in the book, then it becomes such a more intriguing Halloween-y book. This is everything, honestly, that An Education in Malice wanted to be. This feels more like a Carmilla retelling than An Education in Malice did, even though the names are different and then this is like in a fantasy world. Because there's like this whole dynamic where Lisavet is hurting these girls, but there may be something behind her that's making her act that way, so she's not doing this without reason or justification, which is so similar to a lot of analysis of Carmilla in the modern day. So either way, I had a really good time with this. I'm not gonna say like it's not my favorite book of all time, but it was exactly what I was hoping it would be. It was like a lush romantic Halloween vampire book. Even though it wasn't even about vampires, just to be clear, but like it's about vampires. If you read it, you know. It's like it's not about vampires, but it's about vampires. Of a type. I think there's a wide spectrum of things that count as vampires, and I'm counting this book as vampires in my brain. That's my decision. Yeah, I don't have a ton of analysis about this. I feel like my vlogs where I read like a ton of 5-star books end up being much longer because I like want to analyze the hell out of those books. This one was just good, so I don't have a ton more to say about it. It was what I wanted it to be. So that means I've read 3 books this week, which maybe isn't a lot, but it's a lot for me because I have a lot going on in my life right now. It's election season and I have a job and everything, so I'm happy I got through these 3 books and they were perfect to give me all the Halloween vibes. And now it's officially Christmas. I've decided. It's November 1st. That means it's officially Christmas today. If I were to rank these, I think after that ending, before the ending, I was going to put Hampton Heights above House of Hunger. They're pretty close. They both have things I didn't like, and they both have things I did like, so it's kind of hard to rank them. I feel like this ranking thing isn't always going to be the most useful, but at the moment I'm still finding it fun. But yeah, I definitely liked Ninth House the best out of these 3 books. It was really, really incredible, Dark Academia. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still itching to read Hellbent, but I'm wondering if maybe I save and read Hellbent for next Halloween season. But I don't know if Hellbent has the same kind of spooky vibes that Ninth House does. I'd have to look that up, but we'll see. But I am planning on reading that because I think it'll be good. And honestly, I could see myself reading more Alexis Henderson books. The author of House of Hunger, I like the ambiance she brings to the story. It was a good time. And Hampton Heights was fine. It's not gonna like stick with me or anything like that. But I'm happy I read all 3 of them. It was a really cozy Halloween week. I had a really good time filming this and filming all the decorations and stuff. I'll probably do something similar to this maybe for Christmas, because there's a ton of Christmas decor that also gets put up, so that'll be fun. For now, I think that's it. But yeah, I hope you also had a great Halloween, and I hope you have a great November, and I hope your reading this month was as good as mine has been. I'll probably do a little October reading wrap-up that I'll put up at some point
when I have time. But for now, I really appreciate everyone who watches these videos. Every single view I get excited about. So, and I've been having such a good time making them. So it's really rewarding that people watch them. Happy reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!